friends, it's Aubrey from Crybaby Cinema Homestead. Today I want to talk to you about growing your own pharmacy. Now, I am not saying not to use Western medicine whatsoever, and I am not a doctor. I don't have my PhD. Okay, so this is not like trying to advise you to not take prescription medications, but to instead start to grow your own medications should there ever be an issue with supply and demand or whatever. Also, if you talk to your primary care physician, there might be some things that could be beneficial to you. Definitely do your research, because there are some side effects even with plant medicines, and a lot of medications that are made from plant-based medications, they actually have side effects as well. So you have to look at all of those things. But I wanted to tell you that you can get, well, another prepping item to get are to invest in books, because if anything ever happens with the grid, or just having access to the information, it's good to have something concrete in your hands that you can look at. I also like to just flip through things. I find that my eyes get a little fatigued staring at a screen for too long, so you might find that as well. I actually went to the public library today, and my library has a couple shelves and some spinning shelf units where they have books for sale. And I always tend to look to see, I like nonfiction. So I was looking at the nonfiction. I did buy a couple recipe books, a couple poetry books, and things like that. And a book about how to use your air fryer, because I have an air fryer now and it's like I don't know what to do with it. So, but on the shelf I found these two books, and they were only $1 each. And any of you who have purchased home remedy books before, you know that they are a lot more than $1. I do recommend buying something. It depends on what your income is, what feels comfortable to you. I did buy a home remedy book off of, I think, Facebook. Like, they had lots of advertisements from this doctor who had really, deteriorated health. I think she had MS or something like that, and she was able to counteract those symptoms with natural remedies, which is kind of unheard of. And since my dad has Parkinsonism, and I have an aunt who has Alzheimer's, and I have asthma and hypothyroidism and a bunch of other things going on, I thought it'd be really handy to start researching even more. I have a lot of books like this, but whenever I find something like this, I like to get my hands on it. So one of them I got, and these books are like 20-30 years old. I think this one is 20 years old and this one is 30 years old, or vice versa. So this one is Vitamins, Herbs, Minerals, and Supplements, The Complete Guide by H. Winter Griffith, MD, and that's Fisher Books. Looks like this. And I underlined the date on here, or somebody did. 1998 is the latest copyright on this. So we're looking at a book that's 27 years old at least. But I want to say something, a lot of people are like, oh, it has to be new, it has to be the sensationalized newest information. But people have been treating ailments for millions of years. And a lot of the information, I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but if you're looking at magazines, I found that I might see the same Women's Day magazine. I flip through it, and then it's the same exact advice that was given 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And I might know that because I might be a magazine hoarder. So yes, the information, very, very rarely is it something that's brand new information. A lot of the studies that are cited in recently published articles, those studies happened 30 years ago, a lot of times. So do a little research and find that out. But I got the vitamins book, and I also got the Folk Remedy Encyclopedia, Olive Oil, Vinegar, Honey, and 1001 Other Home Remedies by the editors of FCA Medical Publishing. So I was absolutely thrilled, over the moon, that I found, they're $1 each. I found 2 really cool books. Now, how I like to use these, because I am not a medical professional, and I think it's important to always be building your knowledge base. You know, I'm not going to change my line of work. I'm not going to suddenly go back into the medical field. But I think it's really handy to know as much first aid as you can. I've been first aid certified, like, do CPR, all that kind of stuff. I think that's important to do as a just common everyday person in case something happens. It could be a very small scale. It could be a personal situation. It could be a swimming accident, or it could be you have an ear infection and the pharmacy is closed. Things like that, very simple. It could also be something that's completely life-changing for you. So what I like to do with these kinds of books, okay, I like to skim to the back, and I will kind of peruse the glossary a little bit, but I'm looking for the table, the index, or the table of contents, and I'm going to look through and skim for the information I'm looking for. When you go to that section, not only will you find the substances or plant materials or things that can be used to help, you also find the issues that those things are said to help. So then you can kind of peruse that through there. Now, what I like to do also is look to see whenever I can find plant names. Like it says alfalfa, allspice, alder, all kinds of different plants. American boxwood, American dogwood, bilberry. Of course, I was actually looking at these earlier, and it looks like they have, between the 2 of them, I'm not sure which is which, but they have information about elderberry, chamomile, all the basic stuff that you would expect, mint, peppermint, and things that you probably are familiar with. And maybe you want to start with some of those things that are very widely known, and things that are known to be safe for food as well as for medicine. I think that's probably the safest place to start. Like I personally, elderberry is a step up, because the berries are not edible. You actually have to process them in order to make the elderberry syrup, which can be used. So like, I'm not an expert on preparing elderberry syrup, but I have done it a few times, and I found it extremely helpful. The basic idea is you boil the berries in a pot of water for like 45 minutes, and then you use cheesecloth or some kind of like cotton fabric to strain the berries and seeds out, and you're only using the liquid. You're not using the seeds and the skin. And then, of course, at that point, because it's been boiled, the seeds are no longer viable. Okay, and then you use that as your syrup. Now, what I do, kind of do a little different. I prepare that, and then I just do like 1 shot of the elderberry syrup in a teacup. I add some hot water, sweet basil, lemon verbena, stevia, and ginger. Sometimes I put a little bit of cinnamon too. And if you want to, you can actually add possibly a little bit of honey, but I like to use stevia, the actual plant stevia. And that tastes so good. Like, it's so delicious. And I took it several times when I had a very bad cold, upper respiratory gunk, and after drinking it, I felt a lot better, and like my symptoms seemed to resolve quicker than everybody else around me. So that's something, and it's also something that's like edible. I'm mixing in the sweet basil, which you can eat. You can eat ginger, you can eat cinnamon, stevia is known to be safe, honey is known to be safe for like kids over 1 year old or something like that. So those are like food-based things. Now I have to be careful with the elderberry, make sure that it's prepared correctly. I am not the expert on preparing elderberry, so I would like to defer to other people who are experts, and then you can go check out their videos. But I am growing elderberry, which I showed in the video before, and at the end you can kind of see some of my plants are producing fruit. One thing I want to highly recommend to you is when you get books like this and you find what plants and you kind of peruse the warnings and toxicity and all that kind of stuff. When you look at the plants that you think you would be interested in, start growing them now, even before you're an expert, because by the time something happens and you need that material to be your medicine, a seed packet that you have in a tote somewhere and some kind of organization system that you have is not going to do you any good. You have to have a really good plant. Some of the remedies are like the berries of something, or it's the greens or the roots or the stem. Like, it could be a really mature part. Even some of them might be like, it's a, you know, you're supposed to get the roots the second year. So you need to get these plants into the ground, or at least into a pot, get them growing. Don't waste any time, especially when you flip through the book, right? So you're scrolling through a book, you're flipping through a book. When you find things that are specific to issues you know you're prone to, like I'm prone to like upper respiratory issues. I've always had ear issues, sore throats, all that ear, nose, throat stuff. Okay, ever since I was a really little kid. I used to have ear infections. I was like brought to the hospital so many times with fevers of 105 degrees and higher. They actually wanted to do tubes in my ears. So you know yourself, like what are you and your loved ones likely to suffer from? And then you should do things that are like to everybody, you know, like everyone gets colds. And there are some things in here, like in this book, the vitamins one, like folic acid. You're not growing folic acid, but it tells you some things. It talks about flax. Well, you can grow flax. The other thing is too, is if you have a bunch of seeds somewhere that you're going to use the flax seed for something, okay, it's going to spoil and go rancid. But if you plant the seeds and save those seeds, and then plant those seeds and save those seeds from that plant, and you keep cycling through, city life. So, but if you keep cycling through, you continuously are going to have fresh seeds. Otherwise, you're going to be constantly wasting. And you definitely, especially with supply and demand issues, you don't want to be hoarding certain things that are basically, in essence, they're dying. Those seeds are dying while somebody else needs that thing, right? So you want to definitely be rotating it through. Now, I like to also, before I purchase a book, if I have a chance to skim it, I like to look up for things that I have heard about recently. And one of them, I found it in this one. I had heard about was galangal or galanga, and it's like a type of ginger that's supposed to be like really highly medicinal and all this stuff. And I don't know, I'm not an expert on it, but I flipped through and I was like, does it have galanga? Okay, it does. Does it have elderberry? It does. Does it talk about calendula? It does. So then I'm going, okay, well, does it have horehound? Yes, it does. So I'm looking for these things, and of course they're going to be things that, you know, maybe are new to me, and I'm going to take the information from this book and all of the other books I've acquired. That home remedies one I bought, I do really love it, and I couldn't find it right away. But this book doesn't have the dosage. It will tell you like toxicity and that kind of stuff, but it won't say you should have, you know, blank fluid ounces of this thing, or how many times should you drink that tea. It doesn't tell you that. It says like check with your primary care physician, but it tells you a lot of information, like basic information, what it's used for, what the side effects could be. It does not tell you how to prepare it. It does not tell you how much and all that stuff, okay? Because they probably don't want to be sued, right? Nor do I. So don't sue me. This is just, I'm just a one consumer passing on information to another consumer, okay? I'm not an expert. I like this book a lot, and it has information on everything, and it really organizes it by the issue. So that's kind of cool. It has a lot of narrative. So like if someone's bleeding out, you can't go, oh, let me find the page. Where's it talk about how to stop blood loss? Okay, that's not going to be the book you want to use. You probably want to get some kind of nursing, like trauma nurse book for that or something, or some kind of military manual, which I have those too. So, but you want to have a lot of information knowledge that you can put it together. Okay, so if I'm looking for information about one particular illness or one particular plant, I'm going to go through all of my books and I'm going to research like I'm in high school and I'm doing a research project, right? And you're going to research all the information you can on that illness or on that plant, so you become kind of an expert, like an everyday expert, okay, consumer expert maybe. And then if you have an issue like diabetes or something serious, you do need to talk to your primary care physician and say, I've been reading a lot about this. Is this safe for me to use? Now, if the grade goes down and you don't have medical care, you will have to rely upon your own knowledge and whatever other information you can find. So be prepared. This cost me $2. The other book, I don't know, it was probably like somewhere between $40 to $60. It was a lot, but it's softback and it has tons of information, and just like it's kind of smaller font, which is probably my only complaint, but it has just so much information. I could spend all day looking through it and I just like, wow, this is so cool. I can kind of get lost in it like you can get lost in the internet. So I hope that you will check out your local library, call your library and ask them if they have book sales or if they have like a shelf, friends of that library, do they have books for sale in the library? One of the reasons why I like to buy books instead of borrowing them is if I really like the book and I don't want to give it back, or also if you are late, you get charged, and when you get charged, it's more than it costs to buy the book. So I like to look and see what there is. There's probably a few books I would want. I buy them, they're mine. I don't get any late fees, or it's not gonna mess up my credit rating. All right, everybody. I hope that this has been, at least a little bit informative, thinking about what you might want to grow. Even if you're not an expert on horehound, grow it. If you're not an expert on mint, go ahead and grow it. Look at the side effects and dangers. There are some things where it's like, oh, it's toxic to this and this. I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to grow that. But if you look at the toxicity and things like that, and it seems fairly safe, even you're not using it yet, it's good to get it growing, have it in a pot or whatever, and then when you need it, you can do additional research. Okay, everybody, God bless you. Keep growing your garden, keep prepping and your mind, your body, your spirit, and I will see you in the next video. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, comment below, and I'd love to hear from you. God bless you. See you next time.